Welcome to the Steve Has a Chat podcast, where I call someone out of the blue with the record button on and hope to have an unscripted conversation about Microsoft business applications. Let's see how it goes. Enjoy.
Thank you for calling Microsoft. How can I direct your call?
Stephen Guggenheimer, please.
Stephen Guggenheimer's office.
Steve Mordew for Stephen Guggenheimer.
Sure, Steve. May I tell Steve what this is regarding?
Nope.
Let me see if he's available.
Hey, this is Guggs.
Hey, Steve Mordew, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I was wondering if I could get you to do my Steve Has a Chat podcast.
Sure. Let me guess. You're already recording this then, right?
You've heard some already, huh?
I listened to the one with Charles. It was pretty good.
Cool. You got some time?
Sure. Yep. Let's do it.
All right, perfect. Maybe let's start with talking a little bit about your background. I know you've been at Microsoft. Jeez, you've got to be getting close to like the oldest guy there by now. I was doing some research, and I don't know if you remember 30 years ago at the Game Developer Conference demoing Freelancer with Bill Gates.
Wasn't quite 30, but I do remember that. That was when we first introduced Xbox, and was Seamus Blackley did the Xbox demo, and I did the gaming demo on the PC, so we'd have some balance. Yep, I remember that.
That was back in 2000, so almost 30 years. Time flies.
Yeah, I joined in 93, but I think your math is messed up because I think I'm coming up on 25. But never mind. That's just a detail. It's all good.
Cool. Yeah, I also noticed that, 15 years ago, you were the face announcing the Microsoft Small Business Center.
Oh, that's funny. You know, there's something today that made me think about small business. I don't remember what it was. Because there's small business accounting. There was even an Office Small Business Edition, Office SBE. So yeah, I did some segment work. I did small business for a while. I've done some consumer. Yeah, I remember that one too.
There's probably not many things you haven't touched at Microsoft in your tenure. You seem like kind of the hired gun they bring in to go jump on this thing and make it happen.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. I always joke with people. You can have many unique careers at Microsoft, and that's for sure. I've worked from consumer to small business to enterprise, and I've done, segment work, and I've worked on product teams, and had the opportunity to do a lot of ecosystem work between OEM and ISV. And I've always enjoyed being someone I always talk about as the center of the whirlwind. Wherever the activity is happening, whether it's Windows 95 and IE, or whether it's OEM or ISV and an ecosystem, I've always enjoyed that, and I've been fortunate. I've gotten the opportunity to work on / help fix a lot of things, and so that's enjoyable. I think at this point in my career, they mostly use me to either help build new things or help make things better that could use a little bit of extra effort.
Well, sometimes it helps to have someone who knows how the ecosystem works from the inside to bring into some of these new things. And a couple of these new things, AI certainly is still a relatively new thing. And I know you're still heavily engaged with AI, and maybe we could talk about what's going on the AI side.
Yeah, and that's been an interesting space for sure. It's I do a lot of customer engagement. On the AI side, there's this nice balance between everybody wants to have the conversation. We're still early enough in the journey with AI that people are looking for both sort of that trusted advisor term, or somebody to help them understand where we are, and then how they should think about it. So what should their journey look like? Where should they focus at this time? I think I've got two conversations today and one tomorrow with two of them are Fortune probably 500 companies. It's a fun period. I always tell people I sort of grew up, and you're from somewhat the same era, which is we grew up with three building blocks: compute, storage, and networking. And everything we did was sort of, when we got more compute, we wanted more storage. When we want more compute and storage, we wanted more networking. And that took us from client to client server to internet to cloud mobile. And now if you come out of school, those aren't your building blocks. I mean, if you come out of school today, your building blocks are going to be artificial intelligence, IoT, blockchain, in a few years, quantum computing, mixed reality. And so there's a new generation of building blocks that are starting to sort of become the foundation for the next 25 to 40 years worth of what people will build. And AI is one of them. We're early in the journey, but it's for sure too late to do nothing, and it's too early to do everything. So finding that balance is where we spend a lot of energy. And to do that, to your point earlier, I spent a lot of time working across the company to try and help stitch things together and make sure we're as coherent as we can be with customers, and then a lot of time externally with customers and ISVs and partners on how to best sort of get on this particular journey or on the path with AI and have it be both a short and a long-term investment that makes sense.
Well, I hope to be able to retire before we get too deep into all that stuff, but it definitely is right on the horizon. It is interesting, and I discussed this with Alyssa in my last chat about customers that they like the idea of AI. They can step back and they can imagine all the wonderful things that could possibly do for them. But they don't really understand, where to go from there, how to get it. Okay, I'm going to connect all these data sources, get them all in CDS, or get them all somewhere, get them in Azure data lakes, and it seems like that gap between this is something cool I really want, and then on the other side of what's it actually going to do for me, and how do I get there, is a big hill, I think, right now to help people with.
Yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time on sort of where is the technology at. What are the patterns we see? There are different patterns between, using virtual agents to augment a process, to robotic process automation, to, knowledge mining, to sort of using computer vision in different scenarios. Could be QA, could be security. And so we try and sort of start with what are the patterns we see, and then in a sort of build by partner fashion, how do you want to use this technology to amplify your differentiation as a business? Like any other new technology, you can do lots of things. They may not all sort of help the business move forward. They might be fun. So let's think about where you're likely to get support for certain scenarios from your ISV partners or from others. And then where should you actually, where do you have expertise and where should you build expertise related back to these patterns? And then sort of what's the journey look like? I mean, we often talk about BI before AI. Like if you don't have a data, unique data or data in a pipeline or organized in a way that you can make use of it over time, you don't have much to work with. I mean, data is sort of the thing that's going to help you in your, use AI in a unique way. So if you're not sort of looking at insight before intelligence, it's probably not a great conversation. So let's look at the data pipeline. Let's look at sort of your data state. Let's talk about BI before AI. Then let's talk about SaaS services. Where are your existing or new ISVs going to sort of infuse AI into the processes that you run as a business, and you don't need to go build that? And then where should you use sort of the building blocks, the cognitive services, the bot framework, the machine learning workbench, and other tools that we and others provide to actually build unique differentiated assets for your company that's going to help drive your business forward. And then if for some reason you think you want to actually build AI solutions and sell them to others, then let's have that conversation on custom AI tools and techniques that might be used. So it's a pretty healthy dialogue and giving people examples by industry, by horizontal. How do we use it at Microsoft? How do we make our own products better? How do we use it to help run the company? Those conversations resonate really well. They really help sort of frame it for customers. They give them a place to start, and then we can, dig into that next level. Unfortunately, or, for good or for bad, the hype is pretty high today. So helping people sort of think about that journey and think about this not as a proof of concept that just gets done, but a multi-year journey where hopefully a proof of concept's leading to something that's useful for the company. That's it's pretty valued conversation. We do it all the time. We learn a lot in those conversations based on what people are doing. So it's a fun exchange. It's a fun time. It's nice to be able to sort of work both across the company and across the industry to sort of, help people make progress here.
Yeah, I think managing expectations is a key to everything we're doing now. It's interesting. Charles had said in my chat with him about the AI story, until we can really get data consolidated and out of silos, that story doesn't really reach its full potential. When we think about CDS, we think about the Azure Data Lakes, we think about the Open Data Initiative. These are all motions towards let's get all of your data in one, pile, so that we can actually reason over it. And that seems like almost that seems like the first step for some of this AI to happen.
Exactly. Having a data state or your data in order, knowing what of the data you have you want to try and use, what of it you need to start over with, getting it, to your point, into a common data model or a CDS service so that you can, connect or stitch it together over time. When James and others talk about the business processes and the sort of adding intelligence or insight into the feedback loops, whether it's your customer engagement or whether it's your product, how you build products, and ultimately over time across those different blades, that's all about getting that data estate in order and using the tools that are coming in, whether it's Azure Data Lake and the common data model or other tools. That's the starting point, because in the long run, essentially data is the, for lack of a reused term, the oil or the fuel for AI.
It's interesting because data, just in the customer engagement side where I focus, has always been a challenge, with bad data, and that's just in one silo of data. And I have to assume that there's an opportunity for partners to really look at a service around data cleanup and consolidation, because it's not just getting it all in one pile. I mean, we have enough trouble with the duplication and messes in an individual pile, much just getting it all together. It seems like a huge opportunity for partners.
It is. I mean, that's again, if I go back to my, BI before AI as the starting point, or just getting your data state in order, A, that's not easy. B, there's not a lot of people who do it well. And C, that's a, very large opportunity for partners, because that's where customers are going to look, like who can help them do this. And whether it's tools and or services, we see that request all the time. And so I do think it's a big opportunity. It's interesting because a lot of partners I talk to have, burnt a lot of energy on AI, proof of concepts that haven't actually led to further work. But there's a ton of opportunity in the sort of data estate and data, I don't care what term you use, data wrangling, data cleaning, data organization. That is real business. And so I do think that is and will continue to be a big opportunity for partners for the next couple of years. And those partners that do a good job, it's just a good opportunity and a good way to both make money and set yourself up for the future in AI.
Yeah, we know. I mean, customers are pretty easy to get excited, but then they're pretty easy to get disillusioned when they go look at something, and because of a weak spot like some bad data, the information is not reliable. And I think getting that data clean is going to be huge towards reliable information that customers will stay excited about. Let me switch you over to another role you've taken on more recently, and that's around the business applications ISV motion. And clearly ISVs are, while they've always been important, I think, to Microsoft, they've never been more important for business applications than they are today. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing there?
Sure. In having worked on sort of ecosystem work for a long time, both hardware and software in the ISV, having run what was DP and DX, talking with James and others, one of the opportunities that's just coming into fruition right now is how do we think about or rethink about the line of business ISV and how we connect with them. As a company, we've been on a journey for a while now to take, what was our core sort of business assets and move them onto the cloud. So we moved Office from a, client model to a client server model to having an internet add-in to now being a SaaS service. And that's a multi-year journey. We went from our server infrastructure and our client server, computing fabric of Windows and Windows Server and SQL Server and BizTalk Server and all the others to now Azure and a cloud model. And in the last few years, the team's been working hard across the business applications group on taking what was a set of essentially monolithic solutions for CRM and ERP and the other solution areas, and turning those into both a set of SaaS services and then a platform asset that line of business ISVs can use to build on top of the same assets we would use in building a great SaaS solution or service. And so whether it's ISVs that we've worked with for a long time or new ISVs that we want to work with or ISVs that are just getting started, we've added to the stack or the set of tools that we have to offer from Azure up now through the Power Platform, and sort of Azure and all the data tools associated with it, up now through the Power Platform, and then plugging into a set of Dynamics 365 SaaS services. There's a much different footprint of tool set that we have to offer. The opportunity to work with ISVs and essentially say, look, wherever there's value in plugging in with us, whether it's at the Azure level, the Power Platform level, the Dynamics 365 level, it's an incredible time. And there's, no one else in the industry that has both the infrastructure side as well as the SaaS side and the tool set in between. Some people think about Salesforce on the top end of that stack, and you might think about Google on the, or Amazon on the bottom end of that stack, but no one has the complete stack. You link in, you connect into that some unique data assets from the Office Graph to the Bing asset to the LinkedIn asset. You sort of think about some of those new building blocks, whether it's AI or IoT or blockchain, and holy crud. I mean, the conversation with an ISV now around both how we might be helpful as a provider of technology for building some phenomenal solutions, and then B, in terms of how we go to market. We've always had a sort of commercial ethos as a company. It feels right to have that conversation. So the opportunity to help James and the team out and to think about sort of how we pull all these assets together, how we dock the pieces. If you look historically, sort of business applications has run a little bit on its own, kind of separate from some of the other motions. So that opportunity to sort of dock this new sort of platform asset with a Power Platform and these SaaS solutions with the other pieces to line up the ISV motion associated with business applications and line of business providers with the rest of the company's ISV motion. So what goes on in the OCP organization and with Gina and Charlotte in the Azure side, that's a phenomenal opportunity. Line up around the work that's going on with the James and the team in terms of how the Power Platform is moving forward in the next iteration of the platform. And then to make some new opportunities in terms of how we go to market together that map to what the industry does in this space. Phenomenal opportunity. It's a ton of work. I mean, you're trying to dock into Azure's a moving ship, OCP's a moving ship, our own, product schedule's a moving ship, building new things is a moving sort of, ship. But, back to I've been here for a long time, that opportunity to stitch together lots of moving pieces, bring it all together, line it up against a set of phenomenal assets, and work with the partner community to do that. It seemed like a good idea. It seemed like that center of the whirlwind kind of conversation. So here I am.
I think the release of the platform license, which was relatively recent, it really opened a door that, to use a Microsoft term, in the fullness of time, I believe is gonna end up looking to be one of the biggest moves they ever did for ISVs. Really was opening that platform and getting some parity with the other applications out there like Salesforce, their Force.com platform. We haven't had that until recently, and I don't know that all the ISVs or potential ISVs out there have a clear enough understanding of what that actually means. Your ability to build whatever it is that you want, to have Azure, to have Office 365, on the right and left of where you're working. I mean, just right there. And as you say, nobody really has that breadth of stuff just, within arm's reach, right within the same platform.
That's right. And I think you'll see more energy in this space, in this conversation around, what that platform is and the value to, ISVs and others. Satya recently did a couple of conversations. I think one of them ended up in ZDNet, and it was a very strong statement on, sort of the Power Platform being the sort of the newest thing that he's pretty focused on, and he thinks has, huge value for the ecosystem that's out there. And look, as a company, we've always been ecosystem led. The success of our partners is the success of Microsoft. And so the fact that he said, hey, this is the new tool in the set of tools we have, and the new conversation we should all be having with ISVs, I think it helps put some weight behind, this is a pretty unique tool set. It's a pretty unique time, and he's looking for myself and others, and you and everyone else, who listens in to figure out how we make the most of this and bring it all together.
Well, you took a first step here recently with some high-level taxonomy, because we've reached a point where suddenly you need to understand what someone means by I'm a business applications ISV.
BI before AI.
And you introduced
you don't
build,
have a data,
extend,
unique data or data
connect. Maybe we could, if those are still the taxonomy we're going to stick with, which I like, maybe we could just put a little paragraph next to each one of those where you see those coming into play.
Yeah, I just, for what it's worth, I like the term patterns. Taxonomy always sounds rigid. These are sort of the patterns we see when we work with ISVs, and the connect pattern is there's a decent number of Dynamics 365 solution areas now, and there's the platform, and some people are not going to either build on top of it or leverage it, but they still have something that's going to plug in that people might want. And so there's going to be a set of connectors where our SaaS applications exist. They may or may not use the Power Platform, but somebody has something that is useful for a customer, and they just want to connect in. And I think of it like just an embedded object inside of the application. Yeah, likely goes out to an app running somewhere else. I always joke with people, you can have however they've built their solution, and those are valuable. And there's a lot of people who build connectors into the platform. In the old days, these were sort of plugins in a browser, and in this particular vernacular, it's a connector into a Dynamics 365 solution. So that's sort of one flavor of what people do. It's probably the lowest work from an integration perspective. The next level is there are a number of ISVs who take the Dynamics 365 solutions, whether it's F&O or marketing or some other, and they customize it for an industry. So they take the F&O offering and they customize it for a marketing firm or a legal firm, or pick the type of industry. And the UI sort of generally looks like our UI, but it's customized for whatever the industry is. The license required is a Dynamics 365 foundation. That's a particular type of ISV. They may or may not use the Power Platform. They'll do some additional work on top of it, but that's a second pattern we see a lot. And the third pattern is people who take the Power Platform,
to bring
Flow
in
or
some
the
of
Power
these new
Platform,
things, and a couple of these new things,
Power BI
AI
to some
certainly.
degree, and build a custom app. It has it could be a simple app or a complex app. It has its own user experience. It requires that platform license, and they just build something unique that's a line of business solution, and that's a third pattern. And you can mix and match the pieces. There are many people who will do use the embed pattern, which is to take a Dynamics 365 solution, customize it for industry, and then also use some of the Power Platform underneath it to do some additional customization. So you can mix and match them, but for simplicity, one pattern is to just take the small business accounting there was customize it, and that's the base. Another pattern is to build on top of the Power Platform and create something unique. And the third pattern is to just build a connector that sits inside of one of our Dynamics 365 solutions, but bridges off to some other solution that's already been built or that you built separately.
Yeah, I think the extend pattern is the traditional pattern, the one that's been around, for a very long time, and the one that most ISVs built on the extend, and there were quite a few ISVs that are on the connect pattern, although some of the ways for them to connect have gotten a lot simpler and easier now than they were in the past. But the build one is definitely the new one that I think ISVs need to be looking at. And even ISVs that are currently on the extend, should be taking a look at that build to see if maybe there's another version of their application that they could build. So there's just so many different directions that they're able to go now. But when I think about ISVs, and we're hearing a lot of interest around ISVs, that we started, some of us MVPs put together this Power ISV to try to help some of those folks, and lots of interest and curiosity from
infuse
ISVs,
AI into the
which
processes
I hadn't heard a
that
lot
you run
of
as a
the
business for a while.
past. Well, I have.
Yeah,
now
I remember that one too.
There's probably not many things you haven't touched to connect over here, and that's from competing product ISVs, brand new ISVs, and they get on a path, and their goal is to ultimately become a successful ISV. And some of those spots in that path have been a little bumpy as this thing's getting put together. What can you maybe share with some of those ISVs about the future plans for that path, that they've got interest, pick a pattern, whatever it is, and we're going to walk you through to success?
when I look across, you remember we talked briefly about sort of just lining up a bunch of different ships. As we look at sort of the next release that that we'll do, and our releases are April and October, and you see the release notes. One of the things I see as part of our charter is to make it easy to sort of adding intelligence or insight. It doesn't do us any good to have a great sort of platform asset, a really interesting opportunity, and then not make it simple to work with us. And so we're spending energy now as a team on how are we going to redo the onboarding experience. So if you're an ISV who's on a different platform, or if you're an ISV who's starting from scratch, you're an existing ISV, we need to have a set of materials that makes it easy to work with us. And so everything from we've just we're working on updating the website. We'll have to do it again. So lining up all this work with OCP and Azure and ourselves, a big chunk of that is to make the tool sets easier to work with, because frankly right now it's still, the tools represent our old monolithic world, and the world is moving away from that. So what I would say is, hey, we're here to help. In the short term, if you need help, you send us a piece of mail and we try and see what we can do. Longer term, that doesn't scale for squat, so we're working on revamping sort of our web properties and our tool sets to make this make it easier and a better experience. Anything from how to use the tools, ultimately to certification and everything in between.
We've got a pretty good model of what's happened with the Azure ISVs.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff we can glean from that, and then there's some unique angles on the business application ISVs. I think mainly the buyer is probably different. But what are your thoughts on how we're gonna maybe get the best of what the Azure ISVs have done, and maybe speak about their success a little bit?
Well, look, we spent a couple of years working to create a go-to-market motion, or a partnering motion that would help ISVs that build on our platform be successful, and that's what we do with Azure. That's what we've been working on for years, whether it's co-marketing or co-selling. In the line of business space, to be fair, Salesforce has done a good job in having an additional motion for that, and sort of investing in their go-to-market efforts. So we're trying to learn from what they've done. We're trying to learn from what others have done, and see, can we not only sort of build on top of what we've done with Azure, but what can we do in terms of other motions and other opportunities, or approaches to doing go-to-market work with partners. And so it's a little early to talk about anything yet, but you should assume that we're thinking not only of building on top of the work that we've done with Azure, but doing some additional work specific for line of business ISVs that partner with us across the Power Platform and or the Dynamics 365 offerings, and figuring out a way to do even better with that set of folks. And then over time, maybe helping all of Microsoft move forward in terms of how we work with line of the ISVs, regardless of what
listeners that don't know, the way that Microsoft's organized is we have functional leadership.
I like to ask everybody, if you kind of look across the landscape, and this can be either in your AI or ISV story role, it doesn't really reach of the things that are available that are really CDS, we think huge, game-changing types of things that, for whatever reason, customers or partners just aren't getting it. It hasn't lit the light bulb over their head yet. And what would be some examples of some of those things that you think partners need to, and customers should just wake up and go check out?
That's a hard one, because normally what hits me over the head is the
Perfect.
There are so many things to take advantage of. It's trying to wade through it all to find the areas that make the most sense. I think the days of all or none are over. All Microsoft,
James
all
Phillips
Oracle,
is
all
our
IBM,
engineering
all anybody.
lead.
I don't care whether it's
I
Facebook
run
or
our
Google.
product marketing and management.
Once you get past that and you say, okay, what are the things that I can leverage? I don't think most people realize or sort of dug into how much Microsoft has to offer. And that's both a technology statement and a go-to-market statement. And I think, to your point earlier, people in this community, the line of business community, are starting to say, wow, there really is an opportunity here. And when you look at sort of who's aligned with, selling into the commercial space, which is where line of business ISVs sell, and then you look at the set of, offerings we have, loops with it. I think the thing not to miss out on is the opportunity to part product. Now, whether that's ultimately over time, lightweight partnership to the, whether it's a connect, embed, and build, model, or whether it's leveraging some of the other tools, I think the aha or the miss is not taking the opportunity to sort of understand Microsoft better, understand what we have to offer, both at a technology and a go-to-market level, and then find the way that makes the most sense for you as a business and go forward. And I think that's what I spend a lot of energy on. It's not the one thing, it's finding the right thing. So that's my own perspective.
You know, it wasn't that many years ago that your quote-unquote Microsoft partner knew everything that you needed to know about everything Microsoft. But those days are long gone. Now there's too many different things to be good at. When you talk about, productivity, you talk about AI, you talk about business application, you talk about all these different things that partners are starting to kind of niche into these lanes of expertise, which is good, but definitely feeds the need for that partnering. And I think that very often, I know because we're in our own lane also, that we're not always paying attention to what's happening in those other lanes, and we could be missing some opportunities just because we're kind of head down in our lane.
Right. Or existing or new ISVs
I discussed this with Alyssa.
Infuse AI into the processes that you run to sort of drive a unique business today. It's harder in the sense that there's lots of opportunities to create new things, which is awesome. And it's easier in the sense that there's a lot of opportunity to create new things, but figuring out, what the core of the business is, or what the soul of the business is, and how you want to leverage all of the new things that are coming down the pipeline. I use my building blocks. How do you want to leverage the new building blocks along with the things you've been doing for a long time, and create unique differentiation? Look, customers are going through a lot of transformation. There's a lot of opportunity out there, whether it's the data conversation we had earlier or some of these new areas. Finding your niche, using the technology to drive your core differentiation as an ISV or as a company, figuring out how to make the most of what we or frankly any other company has to offer. I mean, some of the fundamentals of running a business haven't changed. The opportunity to leverage a broad set of new technologies and capabilities has. And so now how do you find that right intersection? Build for today and plan for the future. That's the conversation.
I've said this before, but Microsoft partners, in the past, or people thinking of becoming a Microsoft partner, kind of looked over the fence, and I think they often felt like I'm too far behind. You got every partner out there is an expert. I could never jump in and catch up, but that is absolutely not the case today. I mean, there are brand new products being launched for which we have no experts yet. Every day, and customers, as you say, they're seeing the new things, they're getting excited about the new things, and there's just not enough partners that have expertise. So I think that the whole cloud and everything that has happened since has opened up the opportunity for potential new partners to join Microsoft, plant a flag, and become an expert in lots of different things. And I don't think it's as challenging as it was at one time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think I think not being afraid to dive in and recognizing that both the world and the landscape has changed, and that there's plenty of opportunity out there. It's a good time for that, and that's where I get energized. I mean, I'm enjoying the conversation you and I are having. I'm enjoying the conversations I have with ISVs, because I don't think as many of them realize that, gosh, Microsoft has a lot to offer in this space, and we might have partnered with one of the other cloud providers, or we might have partnered with one of the other SaaS providers, but holy crud, Microsoft's got a really good set of offering out here, and I don't think we knew that. And to be fair, I don't think our offering was quite where it needed to be yet, and I don't think we were telling the story as well, but now we are, and I think and so now is a good time. So I get energized by that. I think there's a lot of opportunity out there. Like anything else, you still need to run a good business. You still need to think about how you focus, but boy, there's no better time than right now.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know partners that do nothing but Power BI. They build an entire practice on one piece of technology. I know other partners that are leaning heavily towards and may soon become entirely Flow. We're shifting our focus, and we are on a path to eventually becoming entirely Power Apps. So there's all these lanes, and there's so much depth in each one that there's definitely value I think the old days of I want to be able to help any customer with anything are just not realistic anymore.
That's right. But I think to your point, like you have this phenomenal opportunity to go from Power BI to Power Apps, and boy, that's a rich field. When you sort of bubble it up to, people love that term, robotic process automation, but when you bubble it up to that level and say, hey, can I automate workflows? There's plenty of work to be done there for sure.
So are you involved at all in any of the MR stuff that Alyssa was saying that she was excited about in my chat with her?
I am, in the sense that, as part of our broader set of work, but I'm not deep on it. I mean, I get excited by that. I think when you look at HoloLens even years back when we first came out, and go back to when we started in this industry, and think compute, storage, and network. Did you ever think you'd see sort of a holographic computer that sits on your head? Probably not. I mean, you're almost at Star Trek level, and it's just not what we imagined 25 years ago when we were thinking about things we would build, and yet here we are. And so now take that same thought process, which is, gosh, now the kids coming out of school have this MR set of capability, this AI set of capability, this IoT set of capability. They'll have quantum as a backbone pretty soon. Holy crud, give them 25 to 30 years and see what they do. Yeah, you should get pretty energized and excited.
Yes, it's going to be interesting to see as this next generation moves in, and they're moving in now, and they're coming into the space with no fear of apps or cloud or devices that, the older generation guys like me, struggled to figure out how to use our cell phones for a while. And technology, when you think on the customer side, those that are a little intimidated by technology, the next generation coming in under them and ultimately that's going to replace them has no fear of any of this stuff. They just it's all second nature to them.
That's right. That's right. So I think, again, you give a new generation, and also, people think properly about privacy, the ethics side of this and everything else. You not only have a new generation that'll grow up with a new set of building blocks, but generationally they think about things different. They'll have a different sort of understanding of the technology. They'll have a different understanding of how to apply it, and I think that'll be helpful because people get uncomfortable with somebody. I don't care whether it's Facebook or Google, and so once you get past that, you say, okay, it's a helpful way to think about it. When you know that generationally there'll be a new generation that sort of thinks about how to work on this stuff.
Well, we're seeing new generations inside of Microsoft. I mean, you look at guys like Charles and Steven Siciliano. These are young guys that are from a generation different from both of us, and
that's right.
And they're exciting guys. They're exciting thinkers. I give James credit for giving them the the latitude and the responsibility he has. He definitely recognizes that us old guys aren't going to get it all done.
That's right. That's totally right. So I do think it's a helpful way to think about things.
So what excites you when you come in the office every day? What's the most exciting thing that pops up? I mean, that you just can hardly wait to jump on and push everything else to the back of the desk.
I'm at a little different stage of my career, so I get excited when I get to do mentoring sessions with people. I get excited when I get to meet with customers and partners. I get excited when I get to sit in on the review of a new technology area, or where we do an AI meeting every other week with Satya and the other leaders, and you learn new things. So I get excited about sort of having an impact in the conversation with both individuals and organizations, and learning as we go. It's a little less about I'm going to go solve this problem, or I'm going to go solve that problem. Those things come along with time. I mean, I'm digging in on AI, I'm digging in on the ISV side. But the true energy comes from getting that opportunity to give back and to contribute into the broader conversation. At this point in my career, I enjoy ISVs because pretty much anything I don't think as many of them realize
getting
that.
To know you,
gosh,
and some of the things I'm learning about you is you're a pretty no nonsense guy. You don't suffer fools. You don't carry on conversations about silliness or sprinkle around the edges. You kind of get right to the point, cut to the quick, and I think I'm sure the customers appreciate that. I know I do.
Yeah, I am known for that. I've worked hard over the years to sand off some of the roughness of those edges, so I feel like I'm a lot better at that now. I like to think of it that I'm helpful at getting to precision pretty quickly. I'm pretty good at absorbing a lot of information and being able to net and simplify and sort of get to the right direction. I mean, this whole sort of bag ISV conversation, you're trying to land multiple ships at the same time, and I think I'm fortunate, having worked here a long time and
I'm too
having
far
done
behind.
some of the work, I can more quickly get to,
expert.
What do we need to do, where are we going, what do we need to do now, what's the journey going to look like, and how do you line everybody up? And, in the world we live in today, there isn't time for, you want to bring everybody along with you, but there's not a lot of time for spending too much time trying to be warm and fuzzy about everything. So I'm the right balance of warm and fuzzy, and let's get it done, and directionally the right amount of carrot and stick, and making it work. My colleagues laugh when I try and describe my style, because there's not a perfect answer there.
Yeah, well, there's definitely efforts towards getting something done and efforts that are being wasted to circle around the issues. And I appreciate your willingness to shut some of those off at the knees. Say, let's focus on the stuff that gets things done.
I think I did that with you already once.
Yes,
I think you sent a request in, and I'm like, look, I can tell you a bunch of nice things and tell you we're going to look at this, but we're not going to do this, so why don't we just save some time? And I think it'll probably be better for both of us, and I actually think you appreciated that.
I think we're up to about a half a dozen times now that you've done that to me, but yes, I do appreciate it. I'd rather have that than keep circling around the bush. So what events have you got coming up?
It just saves time. People really want to be nice because they love you, and I do too, but at the same time, we'll just save some time.
Well, time is money, my friend, so I appreciate that.
That's right.
What events do you have coming up that you're going to be attending where people might be able to see
Hard
you
to
and shake your hand?
conceptualize, absolutely. And it sounds,
I'm off to Europe. There's a customer advisory board followed by an event. I think it's called Business Forward, which is in Paris. And then from Paris, I'll pop over to Mobile World Congress. So I'm going to go to MWC. So those are two places to see me in person. And then when I come back, I got to go to New York I'm giving a talk at some event, but I'll be in New York for a day or two. So if people from New York want to connect, let me know, because I'll be in New York. And then after I get back from New York, I think I got to go out. I'm going out to Hong Kong at the beginning of April, and so I haven't decided what other countries I'll go to on the way there. And then I'm pretty sure I'll hit Japan in May. So there's a set of things.
You are a traveling fool, my friend. So I know you're going to be at Business. I know you're going to be at Business Applications Summit in June in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that'll be a spot here in the U.S. for some folks to connect up with you. I think I'm going to see you probably next at PAC here in March.
Yep. I'll be there.
You got anything else you wanna throw out there before we?
You've worn me down with this sort of random phone call. It's supposed to, I assume, take 10 minutes. Having listened to one of the others, I knew it was a little longer than that. But no, I feel like we covered a decent amount of ground.
It's my secret. I ask open-ended questions.
I know.
You
Some
don't
of us
escape that
are
easy.
natural talking heads, so we just feed right in.
All right, cool, man. Well, I will. I'll talk to you in March, and thanks for.
Sounds good.
Thanks for taking a call.
Yeah, it's good to catch up. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Turn off the record here.